stop. Just stop. They all had their brief encounter with Jesus, but he was my friend, and none of those songs will ever bring him back. I was there, and I walked the dirt roads with him day after day before the crowds ever followed. I saw him perform miracle after miracle. And that's the thing most people don't understand. Yes, Jesus performed miracles. But it's not something that he just did. Those miracles were who he was. He, Jesus himself, was the miracle. And he was so much better than you know. It was his kindness that surprised me the most. I'm a twin. All my life, I lived in my brother's shadow. He was the funny one. He was the charming one. And somehow, he was the handsome one, too. Every day of my existence, my parents compared me to him. Thomas, Mom said, why can't you just be happy like your brother? My father would always laugh at my brother's jokes, but when I tried to be funny, he'd just scowl and tell me to grow up. Do you know what that's like? To be the one who always gets it wrong. To be the one who's never good enough. But then I met Jesus. I'll never forget the day that Matthew introduced me. He brought me to this tiny house, and there were people surrounding this man sitting on a stool. I remember how average he looked. I remember wondering why on earth Matthew had dragged me there. I don't remember anymore what Jesus was saying when I walked through those doors, but I remember clearly the moment that he stopped. Because he stood and he looked right at me and he smiled. Like he'd been waiting all day to see me. He walked across the room and he put his hand on my shoulder. He looked me in the eye, and I knew in that moment that he saw me. He didn't see the brother everybody else wished I was. He didn't see the disgraceful, disappointing twin. He saw me. And then he said it. He said, I'm so glad you're here. He asked me to sit next to him as someone else prepared the meal, and as we ate, he asked me question after question about my life, and then he genuinely listened to the answer. It was like everyone else at the table didn't matter. He would have been content to just sit there and talk to me. I've never known anything like that. So I came back day after day after day. And it didn't matter if I spoke to him or not, because just being near him, I felt so accepted, so welcome. One day, he pulled me aside and he said they were going to leave and go to Capernaum. He asked me if I would go with them. I ran home and I told my parents that I was leaving. I packed a bag and I never looked back. I never needed to. When we were walking with Jesus, it felt like I was walking with the family I always wanted. It always felt like home. No matter where we were, I was with him, and he cared about me. Now he's gone. Do you know what that's like? Do you know what it's like to have everything you've ever wanted in life right in front of you and then have it torn away? Do you know what it's like for someone to rip your heart out of your chest and somehow you still have to keep living? I remember the day we walked in and walked to Lazarus' tomb. The women were there wailing and weeping. The mourners were in full view. But Jesus walked up to that grave like it was a curtain, and he spoke. All he did was speak, and Lazarus walked out of that grave like it had all been a game. We knew then that the Pharisees wanted to kill him, and we were a stone's throw away from Jerusalem. Everyone else wanted to turn and run, but not me. I wanted to walk right into Jerusalem with Jesus and die with him. I wish I had. I wish I'd hung on that cross beside him. At least then, I would have died with the only person who ever loved me. At least then, I wouldn't have to deal with this hole in my chest. He believed in me. He saw me for who I was, and he wanted me around. Now he's gone. We left him. I left him in the garden when they came with their iron and their torches and carried him away. I just watched from a distance. I never got to say goodbye. My whole life was wrapped up with that man. Everything I've ever known and loved, every bit of acceptance I've ever known was with him, and he's gone. And the only one who could do a thing about that was him. John came to me yesterday. He said they'd seen him, that Jesus was back. But I can't, I won't go there. My heart can't take it. Because what if they're wrong? What if it's all a mistake? No. If he's back, he would come to me. He would come for me, and he would let me touch those wounds. He would bring me in and embrace me again like a friend. But now he's gone. And I'm stuck here, waiting for a miracle. I'm sorry. I'm so